What's up, you beautiful Redditors? Hope you're having a fantastic Friday. Welcome to the RNEWS Evening Show. And let's just jump into it. From r/politics. He gets his photo up and gets out. Biden hits out at Trump for reckless Omaha rally that left supporters hospitalised. Trump leaving Americans out in the cold even though it was entirely preventable is the epitome of his presidency. Edit. Yes, I misspelled epitome. No, I will not change it because I'm lazy. Edit again. Epitome is a word. Google it. I was just too lazy Google to it myself to prove that I was right. Epitome asterisk but 100% edit. That's fine. Edit again. Again, it's still epitome asterisk but 100%. Epitome Lara. Anyone else notice that conservative social media is completely crickets with this story? The very few who are talking about it only say that at least Trump can get a large crowd to rally for him when all Biden can get is a dozen people, completely leaving out the fact that Biden isn't holding larger rallies because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Because it's not a story. Trump supporters sign up to be crap on by the president. Get crap on by the president is expected. That's because our conservative has been run up crap creek. It's the new MAGA headquarters and is full of buffoons. I cannot wait to laugh when our conservative denounces Trump the second he loses the election with him. We didn't really want him in power. He just got lucky. Oh God, please let him lose. Everything about this situation was 100% preventable. Trump simply didn't give a crap. You're watching the RNEWS show. From r/politics. That this nightmare of an election is even close screams the need to revamp critical thinking. Education. That's a terrifying fact. What's really freaked up is how many of his supporters have died of old age and COVID. Not to mention senior citizens are nowhere near as favorable for him since COVID. So if he's still at 42%, that means people have switched to his side. I know a guy who didn't vote for him in 2016 because he thought he was gonna be the next Hitler. And I crap you not, his scattered reasoning for voting for him now is a mixture of Joe Biden is a pawn for the radical left. He's the only one who cares about the Constitution. And my personal favorite, he's by far the smartest president we have ever had. Unfortunately, the people who need it would think it was some conspiracy to put cancer in their pets. Or something. As a high school educator, I am trying. You know who stops me? Parents. Parents have threatened to sue me and hurt me for teaching ideas like slavery is wrong, women have civil rights, and that there is a separation of church and state. Edit. I realize the examples I gave aren't reflective of my argument. Critical thinking is an ongoing process for me, evidently. You're watching the RNEWS show. From r/politics. Fauci says it's time for the US to put aside these extraordinary excuses and mandate masks. 100% of people who died of dehydration actually drank water. Moreover, their bodies were actually made of 60% water when they died. Liberal conspiracy. I live in a city that mandates masks, and a lot of people don't comply. So that's what we are up against. Apparently there are a lot of mouth breathers as well. Those that wear a mask but keep their noses uncovered. It's funny how much anti-maskers use it to portray some kind of tough guy image. My dad was a Vietnam vet and he taught me that being tough means protecting and looking out for those weaker than you. What do I know though? I don't worship a draft dodger. Trump is a weak man's idea of a strong man. You're watching the RNEWS show. From r/World News. NHS worker punched and thrown from tube train after confronting passengers for not wearing masks. The slightly positive news is that it used to be fairly difficult to spot raging buttholes. Now it's incredibly easy. In Missouri we have to wait when we see a red hat. It could be a MAGA hat or it could be for the STL Cardinals, and those few seconds of waiting to find out if their buttholes can drive you nuts. Man, I have that in Minnesota. I always get excited to see Cards fans, but then you see the dreaded letters and your heart sinks. I also live close to a military base and there's a lot of red Marine vet hats out here too. Me and a couple friends like to place bets on what it's going to be. We call it Schrodinger's butthole. He is white with short blonde hair and wearing a suit. He was described as carrying an umbrella. If you live in London and you think you might know this man, contact the police. The article included a pretty clear picture of him, so it's not like they aren't giving people enough info to go on. Yeah, got his whole face. Too bad he wasn't wearing a mask. These buttholes are the real disease. They are infesting America, the UK, and Australia mostly, and now it is spreading to other parts of the world. Stop the spread of these POS. Lol. Remember every Thursday they were clapping and letting off fireworks to thank the NHS. Didn't last long, did it? You're watching the RNEWS show. From r/politics, dangerously authoritarian. Trump says, hopefully, courts will stop states from counting ballots after November 3rd. He's saying it out loud. He wants courts to block legally cast ballots from being counted. He's a fascist. That's always been his goal. He whines and whines till he gets his way. It's worked for him his whole life. Too bad he wasn't raised by my parents. I would say the same, but my parents voted for him twice in the same election. Expect him to change his views completely when night of tallies show Biden ahead. I'm hopeful from the early voting totals that a large majority of Biden voters are paying enough attention and decided not to risk voting by mail, or if they did not want until the last minute to mail their ballots. Trump's scheme hinges on a large majority of Biden voters using absentee ballots and a sizable chunk of them waiting until the last minute to send their ballots in. I know a lot of people who are voting early instead of by mail as they initially planned, and I hope that's the trend nationwide. I'm voting in person on election day because we don't have early voting and DOJ shenanigans worried me. So my vote will be counted November 3rd. One of the most anti-military things you could say, if you are deployed and have to mail your vote in. Trump says you do not count. You're watching the RNEWS show. From r/World News. South Korean dog meat farms closing as attitudes change. Ethically, it's not really any different to the animals slaughtered in the West if you believe something is wrong with this. I suggest researching veganism. I personally also find killing dogs horrible, but not really meaningfully different to what happens to cows, pigs, chickens. Yeah, it's a thing that's been hanging over from the older generation from the Korean War days. I don't think anyone under the age of 50 partakes in the practice, and it's not a wholly common thing. Korean boomers essentially. Just as a counterpoint, my dad and mom are basically Korean boomers. So are all my other relatives. They all grew up in Korea during the Korean War, and were basically homeless kids living on whatever they could find to eat. Even still, they think dog meat is disgusting. My dad even said the idea of eating a dog is gross. I think it's a smaller subsection of that generation that find dog meat appealing. It's probably not as widespread as people think. I still find the thought of eating dog, cat, horse meat repulsive. But I agree with you. It's just cultural norms that say it's okay to eat cows and pigs but not dogs or cats. If it helps, horse meat is kind of a strange, spicy taste. It's not all that good. A bit tough. It's a unique taste, but you're not really missing out on anything. Have you tried buffalo? Tried buffalo wings one time and it was delicious. The meat was coming right off them by itself. Thought that the bones were a bit small, but hey, it's still good. It's amazing how a 2-ton buffalo can fly with those tiny wings. And that's where we're going to end today's show. But if you like what you saw, leave a like. And if you want to see more of the RNEWS show, hit that subscribe button. As always, this has been the RNEWS show, and I'll see you tomorrow.